The Battle of Midtskogen, Norway's stand against Hitler. April 1940. In the dark, frozen heart of Norway, a handful of hastily gathered soldiers and civilians prepare to face one of the most powerful armies the world has ever seen. Their position? A quiet farm called Midtskogen, 5 kilometers west of Elverum. Their mission? Stop a German convoy long enough to save their king, and perhaps the entire nation. What happens that night would go down in Norwegian history as a moment of defiance, courage, and survival. This is the story of the Battle of Midtskogen, when ordinary Norwegians stood in the path of Hitler's war machine. Background: the invasion of Norway. On April 9, 1940, Nazi Germany launched Operation Weserubung, the codename for the simultaneous invasions of Denmark and Norway. Germany's goals were both strategic and political. By seizing Norway, Hitler aimed to secure iron ore shipments from Sweden, protect naval routes through the North Sea, and establish air and submarine bases that could threaten the United Kingdom. But there was also a political objective, a bold plan to capture King Haakon VII and his government in a lightning strike, forcing Norway to surrender quickly and submit to Nazi control. The invasion began with coordinated assaults on major ports: Oslo, Bergen, Trondheim, and Narvik. Most German operations were successful, but in Oslo Fjord, something unexpected happened. The sinking of the Blücher. The German naval task force approaching Oslo carried thousands of troops, including occupation forces and government agents who were to install a puppet regime. Leading the fleet was the heavy cruiser Blücher, one of Germany's newest and most powerful warships. As the fleet advanced through the narrow Drøbak Sound, they came under fire from the Oscarborg fortress commanded by Birger Eriksen. With only aging coastal guns and 2 torpedo tubes from 1900, the Norwegians opened fire. The shells struck Blücher directly, igniting its ammunition and fuel. Moments later, the fortress launched its torpedoes. The massive cruiser exploded and sank, taking hundreds of German soldiers, officers, and equipment to the icy depths. The loss of Blücher caused chaos in the German fleet, delaying their arrival in Oslo. That delay gave King Haakon VII and his cabinet precious hours to escape northward to Hamar and then to Elverum.
German pursuit. Realizing that their main fleet had failed to seize Oslo in time, German command immediately sent a special unit by land to capture the king before he could escape. A small force of Fallschirmjäger, German paratroopers, and intelligence officers, about 100 to 120 men, was organized under the command of Hauptmann Eberhard Spiller, Germany's military attaché in Norway. Because German vehicles were not yet available, they commandeered 4 civilian buses, a captured Norwegian army truck, and Spiller's own car. Their orders were clear: find and capture the king and his government alive. If successful, the Norwegian campaign could end within hours. The Norwegian defenders. Meanwhile, Norwegian officers at Turningmon camp near Elverum learned that a German convoy was heading straight toward them. There was little time and almost no coordination. Captain Ragnvald Roscher Nielsen and local commanders quickly gathered whoever could fight: about 20 to 30 Royal Guardsmen, volunteers from Turningmon, and members of the local rifle clubs. They were poorly equipped compared to their enemy. Their weapons included bolt-action Krag-Jorgensen rifles, 2 Colt M29 machine guns, a few hunting rifles, and sheer determination. Some wore uniforms, others civilian winter coats, but all understood the gravity of the moment. If they failed, the king would fall into enemy hands, and Norway's freedom would be lost. Their plan was simple, but desperate. 2 roadblocks, one at Sagstuen, another at Midtskogen Farm, would slow the German convoy. The Norwegians would ambush them, force them to abandon their vehicles, then attack from both flanks. The night of the battle. The night was bitterly cold. Snow muffled every sound. At Midtskogen, soldiers and civilians dragged cars, trucks, and sleds across the road, creating a makeshift barricade more than 100 meters long. They took positions behind fences, barns, and tree lines, waiting. Around 2 a.m. on April 10th, the sound of engines echoed through the valley. The Germans had arrived. 4 buses and a truck rolled slowly toward the blockade. Then came the first shots. A burst of gunfire shattered the stillness of the night.
The fight begins. The German convoy halted abruptly. Caught by surprise, the paratroopers disembarked and began returning fire with their MP-38 submachine guns and MG-34 machine guns, spraying bullets across the darkened road. Tracers illuminated the sky. A nearby barn at Midtskogen Farm caught fire after being hit by German flares, lighting up the battlefield and exposing the Norwegians' positions. Pinned down by superior firepower, the defenders struggled to bring their 2 machine guns into action. The freezing temperatures jammed the mechanisms, and for crucial minutes they could not fire. Finally, after desperate effort, one of the machine guns roared to life. Its bursts tore into the German positions, giving the Norwegians enough cover to regroup and continue fighting. For nearly an hour, the battle raged in confusion, flashes of gunfire in the darkness, shouts in Norwegian and German, the crack of rifles echoing through the snow. But then came a turning point. The death of Hauptmann Spiller. During the chaos, Hauptmann Eberhard Spiller, leading from the front, was struck and mortally wounded. With their commander down, the German unit lost coordination. Without Spiller, the attackers hesitated. Their mission, to capture the king, now seemed impossible. By 3 a.m., the Germans began to retreat, leaving behind dead and wounded. The Norwegians, exhausted and cold, regrouped at Sagstuen, where reinforcements from the Norwegian Military Academy arrived. It was over. The Germans had been stopped. Casualties and aftermath. The Battle of Midtskogen was short but decisive in its impact. German casualties were 5 killed, including Hauptmann Spiller, an unknown number wounded. Norwegian casualties were 3 wounded, 1 seriously, but none killed. The Germans withdrew to Oslo, realizing the king had escaped beyond their reach. This small skirmish, fought in the snowy darkness, would change the course of Norwegian resistance.
The Elverum Authorization. Thanks to the delay at Midtskogen, King Haakon VII and his cabinet had enough time to issue the Elverum Authorization on April 10th. This document granted the Norwegian government extraordinary powers to rule in the absence of parliament, Stortinget, ensuring legal continuity and preventing Germany from establishing a puppet government. When Germany demanded that King Haakon accept collaboration with Nazi sympathizer Vidkun Quisling, the king refused. His firm stance inspired the entire nation. On April 11th, German bombers attacked Elverum, but the king and his ministers had already escaped northward. Midtskogen had bought them just enough time. The symbol of resistance. In military terms, the Battle of Midtskogen was a small engagement, a brief skirmish between lightly armed locals and a superior force. But symbolically, it became one of Norway's proudest moments. A memorial stone now stands on the site, inscribed with these words. Here, Norwegian soldiers stopped the enemy's attempt to capture the king, the crown prince, the Stortinget, and the government. It reminds every visitor that the freedom of a nation can hinge on the courage of a few. Midtskogen became a rallying point, proof that resistance was possible, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Over the next 5 years of occupation, Norwegian resistance fighters, inspired by that same spirit, would sabotage railways, sink ships, and assist Allied operations until the country's liberation in 1945.
A small battle, a great victory. On that freezing April night, amid burning barns and falling snow, the future of Norway balanced on a knife's edge. A handful of soldiers and civilians, outgunned, outnumbered, and untrained, stood their ground and defied the German war machine. They didn't fight for territory. They fought for a king, for a symbol, for their country's soul. And because of them, Norway remained free in spirit, even when its land was occupied. The Battle of Midtskogen was not just a clash of arms. It was a declaration that tyranny would not go unchallenged and that courage can ignite the flame of freedom.